You are leaking energy right now, and you have no idea it is happening. Not in a metaphorical sense, not in some vague spiritual way that sounds good but means nothing. I mean, there is a specific mechanism operating inside you right now that is pulling your life force toward people, systems, and environments that never give it back. And the terrifying part is that this mechanism was designed to be invisible. You were never supposed to see it. Here is what I want you to notice before we go any further. Think about the last time you spent a significant amount of time around a certain person, a certain environment, or even a certain type of conversation, and afterward you felt hollowed out. Not tired in the way sleep fixes. Tired in a way that sleep does not touch. You wake up the next morning and the emptiness is still there. Something was taken. You just did not have a name for it. The Gnostics did, and over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through one of the most precise and quietly devastating maps of human consciousness ever constructed. A map that explains exactly why you feel drained, exactly who and what is doing it, and exactly how an ancient tradition built something they called an energetic cloak, a specific inner structure to stop the bleeding. By the end of this, you will not just understand the concept intellectually, you will recognize the drain as it is happening. And that recognition, that moment of clarity in real time, is where the protection begins. But before we get to the cloak itself, we have to talk about what the Gnostics believed was actually feeding on you. Because if you do not understand the nature of the thing that drains you, any protection you build will have holes in it. And I promise you, this is not what you think it is. The Gnostics were not a single group with a single belief system. They were a loose constellation of thinkers, mystics, and communities spread across the ancient Mediterranean world, roughly between the 1st and 4th centuries. What bound them together was not a shared creed but a shared suspicion, a shared feeling that something about the world as given, as default, as inherited, was fundamentally wrong. They had a word for the creators of that wrong world. They called them the Archons. Now, before you immediately categorize that as mythology and move on, stay with me for a second. Because whether you interpret the Archons as literal interdimensional entities, as psychological forces, or as systemic structures baked into civilization, the description the Gnostics gave them is almost unnervingly accurate when you map it onto your daily life. The Archons, according to texts like the Apocryphon of John, were not evil in the way we usually think of evil. They were not chaotic. They were bureaucratic. They were administrators. Their entire function was to maintain a system, a kind of cosmic machinery that kept human beings producing something, producing attention, producing emotional reaction, producing the specific energetic signature that comes from a person who is confused, anxious, and searching, but never quite arriving. Think about that. Not a monster that attacks you, a system that manages you. And here is where it gets personal. The Gnostics said the Archons do not operate from outside you. They operate through the structures you already have inside, through your need for approval, through your fear of being unseen, through the compulsive loop of replaying conversations in your head at 2 in the morning. These are not random human glitches. According to this tradition, these are the exact points of entry through which your energy is being consistently redirected away from you. So who in your life, what system in your daily routine is functioning like an Archon right now? Because the answer to that question is going to change everything that comes next. Let me tell you what the Archons actually want from you, because this is the part most people get wrong. It is not your happiness. It is not your success or your failure in any conventional sense. What this system feeds on, what it is specifically structured to extract, is your attention in a state of reaction, not your calm attention, not your focused, deliberate, chosen attention, your reactive attention, the kind that gets triggered, the kind that spills out of you automatically before you even decide to give it. There is a concept in Gnostic cosmology called the Heil. It refers to raw, unformed matter, the lowest rung of existence. The Gnostics believed that most human beings were operating almost entirely at this level, not because they were stupid or spiritually broken, but because the system they were living inside was calibrated to keep them there. to keep them reactive, to keep them dense. And now think about the world you actually live in. Not abstractly, specifically. Think about your phone. Think about what happens when you pick it up first thing in the morning. Within seconds, before your feet have even touched the floor, you are reacting. Someone said something. Something happened somewhere. A number changed, and you are gone. Your morning, your energy, your first and most precious hours of consciousness are being harvested before you even had a chance to choose where they went. This is not an accident of technology. The Gnostics would say this is the Archonic principle expressing itself through modern infrastructure. The mechanism is identical. The tools are just updated. But here is what really gets me. You have probably felt, at certain rare moments, a completely different quality of attention inside you. Maybe it was during a walk in silence. Maybe it was in the middle of deep creative work when time disappeared. Maybe it was in meditation, or in a moment of genuine human connection, where everything just went still. In those moments, something in you was not being given away. It was being held, gathered. It felt like coming home to yourself. That feeling is not random. That is what your energy actually feels like when it is yours. And that is exactly what the cloak is designed to protect. Here is the thing no one tells you about energy drain. It does not begin when someone takes from you. It begins when you become visible in a specific way. The Gnostics had a concept they called the pneumatic spark, the divine fragment. They believed that inside certain human beings there was a seed of genuine higher consciousness, not a metaphor, a literal particle of light from a realm beyond the Archonic system. And this spark was described as being, in a very real sense, attractive, luminous. It drew attention the way a flame draws insects. Now here is where this becomes immediately practical for your life. Have you ever noticed that the moment you make a breakthrough, the moment something genuinely shifts in you and you feel more alive, more clear, more yourself than usual, that is precisely when certain people seem to appear, or when certain dynamics suddenly escalate, or when your own inner critic becomes loudest, most aggressive, most insistent that you are fooling yourself. The Gnostics would say, of course, because the spark just got brighter, and the system noticed. This is why so many people on a genuine path of inner development hit a ceiling that seems almost personalized. It is not that the universe is punishing them. It is that their growth has made them a more concentrated source of what the system extracts. They are producing more of the currency, and so more of the infrastructure turns toward them. Understanding this changes the emotional story completely. When you feel like growth itself is being punished, when progress seems to generate backlash from every direction, you are not doing it wrong. You are doing it right. You have just become visible to the wrong things, which means protection is not optional. It is not a nice spiritual extra you pursue when you have time. For anyone serious about waking up, energetic protection is structural. It has to be built. It has to be maintained. And the Gnostics built it. What they built, and specifically how it works inside the architecture of your own consciousness, is exactly what I am going to show you next. I am going to show you exactly how the Gnostic Energy Cloak works. But first, I need you to understand something about the nature of your own aura, because without this, the cloak makes no sense and will not hold. In the Gnostic understanding of the human being, you are not a body that occasionally has spiritual experiences. You are a layered energetic structure that is currently operating a body. And those layers, what some traditions call the subtle bodies, are not sealed. They are porous. They have, under ordinary unconscious conditions, no real boundary. This is why you can walk into a room and immediately feel the emotional atmosphere of it, why you absorb other people's moods without choosing to, why certain conversations leave a residue in you that takes days to wash out. You are, by default, open, and open means available for anything to enter or exit. The Gnostic sages understood this as the primary vulnerability of the pneumatic human. The one who carries the spark is energetically richer than average, more alive, more charged, and without a deliberate structural boundary, that richness becomes a commons. Anyone, any energy system, any archonic feeding pattern can walk in and take what they find. So, what they designed, what we are calling the cloak, is not a wall. This is the crucial distinction. A wall blocks everything. including your own perceptual access to reality. That makes you isolated and brittle, not protected. What the cloak is, structurally, is a membrane, a semi-permeable intelligent boundary, one that you consciously author, that carries your specific energetic signature, and that allows you to perceive without absorbing, to be present without hemorrhaging. And the way it is built is not through ritual alone, though ritual can be a vehicle for it. It is built through a specific quality of inner attention, through a particular way of inhabiting your own body that most people have never been taught and never accidentally discovered. Here is the first component, because the cloak has three. The first layer of the cloak is what I call sovereign presence, and it is built entirely from one practice, consciously choosing where your attention lives inside your body. This sounds almost insultingly simple, but stay with me, because the gap between hearing this and actually doing it is where most people's protection collapses entirely. Right now, as you are listening, where is your attention? Genuinely ask that. Is it at the surface of your skin, scattered outward toward the screen, toward sounds around you, toward the ambient anxiety of things you have not done yet today? Most people, when they actually look, find that their attention is living almost entirely outside their body, projected forward into the future, backward into yesterday's conversations, or hovering just above their head in a state of low-grade vigilance that never quite relaxes. That projected state is not just uncomfortable, it is the archonic interface. It is the mode in which you are most available to be reacted, triggered, and drained. Because when your attention is scattered outward, there is no one home. And whatever comes in meets no resistance, no discernment, no conscious filter. What sovereign presence does is simple and immediate. It calls your attention back inside, not to navel gaze, not to become self-absorbed, but to establish what the Gnostics called the seat of the pneuma, the dwelling place of the spark, a felt sense of being here, in this body, in this moment, as the one who chooses where their energy goes. The practice? Right now, feel the weight of your body in whatever you are sitting or standing on. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Find the center of your chest and simply notice what is there. Not what you think should be there. What is actually there. That active inner contact, that returning, is the foundation of the first layer. When you do this in the presence of a draining person, something shifts. You are no longer a diffuse field of available energy. You are a being with a center, and that centeredness is the first thing that makes the membrane possible. But the center alone is not the cloak. There are two more layers, and the second one is where most people are going to recognize something they have felt but never understood. The second layer is what the Gnostic tradition pointed to when it spoke of Gnosis as a living experience rather than as a set of ideas. They called it recognition. And what you are recognizing is this: the drain is not happening to you. It is happening through a pattern you are unconsciously running. Here is what I mean. Think about the person in your life who drains you most consistently. Now think about what happens inside you the moment you are around them, or even the moment you think about them. There is a specific feeling that arises. Maybe it is a tightening in the chest, a desire to fix something, a low hum of guilt, an old story about who you have to be for them to be okay. That feeling is not the drain itself. That feeling is the door, and you are the one who keeps it open. This is not blame. This is anatomy. The Gnostics were ruthlessly precise about this because they had to be. You cannot protect what you cannot see, and the second layer of the cloak is built by developing the capacity to see the door as it opens, in real time, before you have already walked through it. The practice here is recognition without reaction. The moment you feel that specific signature, that tightening, that compulsive pull, that familiar sense of becoming smaller, you name it internally. Not out loud, just inside, I see the door. And that act of naming, of witnessing rather than being swept up, creates a microsecond of space. And in that space you can choose not to walk through. That choice, practiced enough times, becomes the second membrane of the cloak. The third layer is the most misunderstood and in some ways the most powerful. The Gnostics called it the light seal, and it is not something you project outward like a bubble of white light, though that imagery has its uses. It is an internal orientation, a decision that lives below the level of thought. The decision that your energy, your attention, your creative force belongs first to the divine spark within you, not to the system, not to the demands of others, not to the anxiety machine. First to the spark. When all three layers are active at once, present, aware, and oriented, the cloak is not something you wear. It is something you become. I want to be direct with you now, because this is the part most people find uncomfortable. If you understand everything I have just said, and you return to exactly the same patterns tomorrow, there is a specific cost. And it is not abstract karma or some diffuse spiritual consequence you will deal with later. The cost is your life, not dramatically, quietly. It is the slow erosion of your capacity to feel genuinely alive. Here is how it works. Every time the drain happens without your conscious awareness, without the membrane, without any inner witness, a small piece of your energetic signature gets homogenized, mixed into the general field, made less distinctly yours. The spark does not disappear all at once. It dims incrementally. And the most sinister part of this process is that it produces its own anesthetic. The dimmer you get, the less clearly you remember what it felt like to be bright, the less you feel the loss. Until one day you are someone who used to feel things deeply, used to have energy and vision and a sense of genuine direction, and you cannot quite name when that changed or why. The Gnostics called this state the deep sleep. Not physical unconsciousness, but existential unconsciousness. Walking through your life competently, functioning, managing, but not truly inhabiting any of it. Not truly present to the experience of being alive. And the crueler twist, the systems around you, the archonic structures, thrive on this state. A person who is half asleep is a stable, reliable source. They react predictably. They need the same things over and over. They stay. They keep producing. A person who is awake, who is cloaked, who moves through the world with sovereign presence and inner recognition, that person is not a reliable food source. They become something else entirely. They become a problem for the system. And that, more than anything, tells you why this knowledge was kept obscure for so long. The final piece of this puzzle is something the Gnostics hid inside their cosmology almost like a code. And once you see it, you will understand not just how to protect yourself, but why this protection is ultimately an act of cosmic defiance. Deep inside the Gnostic texts, buried beneath the layers of archaic imagery and complex celestial hierarchies, there is a pattern that repeats again and again. And when you decode it, it is not a description of the universe out there. It is a map of what happens inside you every single day. The pattern goes like this. There is a source of original light. That light descends through layers of increasingly dense reality, each layer administered by an Archon, each layer adding another coating of forgetfulness, of confusion, of identification with the material surface of things. By the time the light reaches the bottom, it has forgotten what it is. It thinks it is the coating. It thinks it is the fear, the habit, the role, the persona. It has no memory of the source. But the descent is not the end of the story, because embedded in the structure of the descent is a return, a remembering. The texts call it anamnesis, literally the undoing of forgetting. And the Gnostics were very specific about what triggers it. Not belief, not doctrine, not ritual alone. What triggers anamnesis is direct inner experience of the spark, a moment of genuine recognition so vivid that it burns through the coating. Here is what that means for you practically. Every time you practice the cloak, every time you call your attention home, every time you see the door and choose not to walk through, you are not just protecting your energy. You are reversing the descent. You are remembering upward. And each act of genuine inner presence adds to a kind of inner mass, a weight of self-knowledge that the system increasingly cannot move. The Gnostic sages said that a person who has built enough of this inner mass becomes, in their language, incorruptible, not morally perfect, not above the human condition, but no longer available as raw material for the machine, no longer Heil, something else, something that carries its own gravity, and the cloak is not the destination, it is the vehicle. The practice that, used consistently, rebuilds the inner architecture until the protection is not something you do. It is something you are. There is one final thing I want to leave you with. Something that connects all of this to a layer deeper than protection. Here is the thing that took me the longest to fully grasp about all of this. The cloak is not about fear. If you build it from fear, from the anxious desire to keep bad things out, it will be a brittle thing, porous in exactly the wrong places, because fear is itself an archonic frequency. It is one of the primary currencies the system collects. Building a fence out of the same material the fence is meant to keep out is not protection. It is just a more elaborate form of the same trap. The cloak, when it is real, when it is working, is not built from fear. It is built from love. From the Gnostic understanding that the spark inside you is not just yours. It is a fragment of something that predates this entire system. Something that was never meant to be consumed. Something that has been trying to find its way home for longer than your personal history can hold. When you protect your energy from that orientation, from the deep recognition that what you are guarding is sacred and not merely personal, something changes in the quality of the membrane itself. It becomes less like a wall you are white-knuckling into place and more like the natural expression of who you actually are. A being who does not leak because a being who knows their own light does not give it away unconsciously. You start to move through the world differently. You can be fully present in difficult conversations without being absorbed by them. You can witness suffering without drowning in it. You can love people without being consumed by them. You can exist inside the systems of the world, the institutions, the noise, the machinery, without belonging to them. That is what the ancient Gnostics were really pointing at. Not escape from the world, presence within it that the world cannot dissolve. And this is where I want to leave you with one thread still open. Because the cloak protects what you have. But there is a deeper question that naturally follows. Once you are no longer leaking, once the energy is yours again, what do you actually do with it? Where does a protected spark direct itself? The Gnostics had a very specific answer to that. They called it the pleroma, the fullness, the realm to which the spark ultimately belongs and toward which, once it stops hemorrhaging, it naturally begins to orient. That is a conversation we have not had yet, and it changes everything about why you are here.